My name is Evan Tastor, and I'm a 17-year-old non-speaker from San Diego, California. Today I'd like to share with you my real experience in the public school system as just one autistic boy with a very active body. Through my IEPs, I have been placed in every type of class over the years. For this reason, I feel qualified as a subject matter expert on most to least restrictive environments. Looking back now, I have an interesting perspective on what actually is the most restrictive environment. Interestingly, I think it's the opposite of what school districts think. In my experience, being part of an inclusive or least restrictive environment without the needed supports and accommodations is the most restrictive place to learn. In fact, no learning has ever occurred for me under those circumstances. I have had inclusive classrooms teach me almost nothing because they were just satisfied to be including an autistic student in their program. It seemed like they included me merely in their attempt to help pay their rent. To have nothing ready to actually teach me shows me they stopped caring about my education after they made their money. This is in reference to how the school districts, including many private schools, distribute the funds. It seems they often take the money meant for other departments like special education, or they use the funds that should go towards individual aids and assign 2 students to 1 aid instead. This toughens the market for instructional aides because they have to work so much harder than the job listing made it seem. These sentiments I have overheard throughout all the schools I have attended. The sentiment nowhere starts to cover the issues. The best aides with the best intentions have challenging things to deal with, including the student's individual needs. For example, a student who gets called aggressive when it's anxiety that gets triggered during a test, a student who needs many movement breaks in order to focus during a lecture, or a non-speaker who's invited to a drama class or an English class where the other students are able to read out loud. These needs often get overlooked instead of addressed, making the student unable to do the work. In the end, that keeps them stuck right there in a more restrictive setting. The victim gets blamed. To me, a setting where a student is blocked from accessing the tools he needs to learn is like a prison. Last fall, I thought I finally reached my goal of full inclusion. I was IEP'd into the public high school, given use of my letterboard, and put in 3 regular education classes. This is what parents and school districts call the least restrictive environment. But to me, it was not. I had to sit in 2-hour-long classes with neurotypical kids who stared at me or used the R word, and with teachers who seemed bothered by my body's movements. My anxiety grew by the day, and my learning stopped. This least restrictive environment was the hardest environment I'd been in yet. When given the chance this past spring, I happily went back to a private special education school, and this is where my story comes full circle. Finally, I'm in a setting that gave me something to look forward to. For the first time, the teachers and other students have started noticing me, not for autism or my apraxia, but for my hard work in their class. The emphasis on the classwork takes my really anxious body to new, calmer places that prior settings made me think weren't made for me. I work with an awesome occupational therapist who taught me and my team how to regulate my body better, and we use a lot of sensory motor warm-ups to get my system organized each day. Unfortunately, there are not many really great settings out there for a body as disconnected as mine. Nobody before my current placement took me as seriously as they do. Since the start of my virtual learning experience, I have gained so much confidence that I never felt before. Learning at my own speed has made my gallant efforts at controlling my body totally worth it. The story isn't complete yet. Someday I know I will be back in what I consider the most restrictive classroom, and I will have to prove myself again. Maybe not until college, but the day will come. The things I have recently been able to accomplish with help, or will help that transition be much smoother than before. Right now, I have so much support there because there is the pandemic. It was not expected, but I will take it happily. This might be considered the most restrictive environment to the school district, but it's the least restrictive setting my brain and body has ever experienced. I think there are no limits in restrictive settings if students are truly given the supports needed. The story has to be written by the individual's needs, not checks and halfway efforts to help. The end. Thank you.